Jason Statham is a one-man army. Wait a minute. That just sounds like every other Statham film. All right, let me try this again. Jason Statham lives an isolated life when the wrong people come crashing through his door. Shelter may be the same type of film that we're used to seeing from Statham, but does this one contain anything fresh? A recluse on a remote Scottish island rescues a girl from the sea, unleashing a perilous sequence of events that culminate in an attack on his home, compelling him to face his turbulent history. So this is directed by Rick Roman-Waugh, the same dude who has worked a ton with Gerard Butler and even had another film, Greenland 2, come out this year. So he's having quite the month. Now here, we get to spend a decent amount of time watching this silent Jason Statham quietly live his solitary life on a tiny island in the Outer Hebrides. He gets weekly supply deliveries, but for a good chunk of the early part of the film, he doesn't say a word. He just eats, drinks, plays chess against himself, and feeds his dog. During a storm, the ship that brings his weekly shipment has trouble, and Statham ends up rescuing the young girl who makes those deliveries. He still doesn't speak much, but there's a certain softness that we watch eke out as he cares for this injured girl. Now, we have zero clue as to why he's reclusive and why he doesn't speak much, but because of a MacGuffin that sends him into town, he's captured by facial recognition on a camera, and that starts a torrent of ruffians and goons from the government to come after him. The movie is play-by-the-numbers formulaic. Each scene doesn't have to be explained or even foreshadowed because it's wildly predictable. We know there will be dangerous encounters, some brutal fighting, an escape or maybe two, more battles, and then some hard looks thrown at opponents as Statham punches and kicks his way through the attackers. I'm really selling this, right? Well, despite the formula-driven plot and then the obvious arcs the storytelling takes us through, the action's exciting, and there's a surprising amount of heart within the narrative. The background impetus for the kitchen sink being thrown at Statham's character, it's rote and generic. And it has to do with government and then the secret factions that typically occupy an intelligence operative force. Bill Nighy and Naomi Ackie drive this portion of the story, and these roles, they aren't anything special or memorable. They could have been played by anyone because they're just shells of characters. There's no background or interesting twists to them, leaving them to be placeholder government entities who may or may not be working for the good of the country. There's also an assassin-type operative played by Brian Vigier, and the only thing that separates him from so many of the other nameless attackers is his intense focus on his target. He's almost unstoppable. So all of the clashes that he has with Statham, they're violently awesome. And then the tightly choreographed to create a fierce ballet of improvised weaponry and brutal hand-to-hand battles. And when they throw punches and kicks and basically anything within reach, the camera floats around the characters to capture the inertia of their attacks. There are some quick edits, but these are balanced with longer and wider shots that allow us to watch the full fight sequence play out unbroken. There's a ton of energetic excitement that's contained within these, as well as some tension. Even though Statham is the star and we do expect him to survive, he also appears to be at least 20 years older than Vigier, so that age gap does make for a few suspenseful showdowns. And within the action, even though this isn't a non-stop fight fest, when we are put into those situations, the adrenaline, it's amped up past 11, and things do get crazy. Now, one of my favorite action sequences involves a car chase. Good gravy. For as violent as the gunfire and the crashing about are, the back roads they travel down, combined with the camera placements inside the vehicles, create a scene that is more turbulent and destructive than a lot of the other sequences. For the heart of the story that I mentioned earlier, Bodhi Ray Brethnak plays the young girl Jessie. She is both sympathetic and tenaciously strong. Now, I saw her most recently in the phenomenal movie Hamnet. Here, though, she showcases a vulnerability that's mixed with fortitude so that she becomes a suitable, even fun companion to Statham. She also softens him in the right ways. And then something I completely appreciate within the story is that she's not the impatient and stupid character who gets everybody into harm's way because she can't just sit in a spot when she's told to. Here, Jessie follows directions, understanding the weight and the danger of a situation, making the flow of events feel less contrived and then more natural in their progress. I think that if you do go see this, you already know exactly what you're in for. The battles are full of excitement and savagery. The chases are intense, and there's just enough heart to keep the story engaging without becoming an exact replica of every other Jason Statham action flick. The writing, it's formulaic, and the villainous plan that sets this all in motion is thin and unremarkable. But the film doesn't rely too heavily on that, letting the momentum carry the story and only popping up every now and again. I gotta say that the ending, though, it's quite dull. There's a certain resolution this whole thing is leading up to, and when it arrives, first, we don't see the actions play out, then it's just all over. I mean, it would have been counterproductive to create some gnarly punch-out sequence, but what we get, it's lackluster. Also, one massively unnecessary action within the storytelling is kind of a spoiler, but I know a ton of people are going to want to know going in. For whatever reason, the writing has the dog die. So that might be the breaking point for some of you, which is completely understandable. So while there's nothing incredibly special about this, it was an enjoyable watch. The audience I saw it with absolutely loved it, and they were completely enthralled. So even though it has a bunch of shortcomings, some of the positives do remove a bit of the tarnish to make it exciting, just not memorable. There's no sex or nudity, some profanity, then a ton of savage violence. I give Shelter 3 out of 5 couches. And this is definitely going to be a fun one to rewatch multiple times on streaming. I'm just not sure it's completely worth the trip to the cinema. All right, which of Statham's films do you count as your favorite? Now for me, it goes all the way back to Lock, Stock, and then Snatch. But let me know yours in the comments below. If you enjoyed this review, please give it a like. Also, don't forget to share and subscribe. I'm Chris. This is Movies and Munchies. Thanks for couching with me.